Every single day, you and I are faced with choices, and while many of them may seem small and insignificant in the moment, they carry with them the power to shape the entire direction of our lives. Sometimes we like to think that it's the big, monumental moments that define us, but in truth, it is often the accumulation of daily decisions that builds our character and sets the course of our destiny. And when you stop to realize just how much weight your choices hold, you begin to see that life is not something that simply happens to you. It is something that unfolds based on the decisions you make and the direction you choose to walk in. Think for a moment about the power of choice. From the very beginning of time, humanity has been given the ability to choose. And with that gift came both incredible opportunity and incredible responsibility. When we choose wisely, we move toward life, toward peace, toward hope. But when we choose carelessly, or worse, when we refuse to choose at all, we can find ourselves in places we never intended to be. The decision that can save your life begins with the awareness that every choice carries weight. It's not just about what feels good in the moment. It's about what direction that moment will take you tomorrow. So many times we minimize our choices by thinking, it's just one time, or it doesn't really matter. But decisions are like seeds. What seems small today will grow into something much larger tomorrow. Just as a seed planted in the ground takes root and becomes a tree, a single decision planted in your life will eventually bear fruit, whether for good or for harm. The habits you form, the voices you listen to, the priorities you set, all of these are the results of decisions. And one decision can change everything. Think about people who have turned their entire lives around with one defining choice. Maybe they chose to walk away from a destructive path. Maybe they chose to forgive instead of living in bitterness. Maybe they chose to surrender their heart and future into the hands of God instead of trying to manage everything on their own. That one decision, though made in a moment, had consequences that stretched out for the rest of their lives. You see, it's not an exaggeration to say that a single decision can save your life. Because when you choose to walk in the way of truth, when you choose life over destruction, when you choose surrender over pride, you set yourself on a path that leads not only to peace in this life, but to eternal hope in the life to come. But here's the challenge. Sometimes the weight of decision doesn't reveal itself immediately. Sometimes the impact isn't seen until years later. And because of that, we tend to treat our choices lightly. We think we can compromise just a little here or cut a corner there, and that it won't really matter. But the truth is that every step you take is either moving you closer to the life God has for you or further away from it. There is no neutral ground. Every decision, big or small, is shaping who you are becoming and where you are headed. That's why this moment, right now, is so important. Because the decision that can save your life is not something you put off for another day, not something you treat casually, but something you must recognize for what it is, a turning point, a crossroads, a moment when the weight of your choice carries eternal significance. And when you understand that, you can no longer shrug it off or pretend it doesn't matter. You begin to see that the gift of choice is really the gift of life, and what you do with it will determine everything. So today, I urge you to take seriously the weight of your decisions. Don't let them be guided by convenience or by pressure or by fear. Let them be guided by truth, by wisdom, and by the assurance that the right choice, though it may be costly, always leads to life, because the decision that can save your life begins with recognizing the power that is already in your hands. One of the greatest enemies of life, saving decisions, is delay. We know what we should do, but we tell ourselves, "I'll get to it tomorrow." We hear the conviction in our hearts, but we soothe it with excuses like, "When life slows down, then I'll decide. When I feel ready, then I'll take that step." But here's the reality: tomorrow is not promised. Time is the one thing we can never recover once it slips away, and delaying the most important decisions of your life can cost you more than you could ever imagine. We have this tendency as human beings to believe that we are in control of time. We live as though the future is guaranteed, as though we can put off what matters most until a more convenient moment. But haven't you noticed that life rarely gives us those convenient moments? The perfect time never seems to come. Something is always in the way. And if you're waiting until everything feels easy, you may wait until it's too late. Delay is not harmless, it is dangerous. Because delay keeps us chained to the very things we need freedom from, and it blinds us to the urgency of now. Think about how many people have missed opportunities, not because they didn't know the right thing to do, but because they didn't do it when they had the chance. Procrastination feels harmless in the moment, but it is quietly destructive. It whispers, "You've got more time," while stealing the very time you thought you had. It convinces you that tomorrow will be easier, while making tomorrow even harder. It numbs you into a false sense of security, when in truth, the clock is always ticking. And by the time some people realize it, the moment is gone, the opportunity has passed, and they're left with nothing but regret. In matters of life and faith, the cost of delay is even greater, because it's not just about missing a chance at success or a moment of happiness. It's about missing the very decision that can save your soul. The longer you delay, the more your heart grows hardened. The longer you wait, the more difficult it becomes to take that step. Delay is like quicksand. The longer you stand still, the deeper you sink, and the harder it becomes to move forward. That is why the call is always urgent, always immediate, always now. Sometimes we think, well, I'll wait until I've cleaned myself up. I'll wait until I've got my life together. I'll wait until I've figured everything out. But the truth is, you'll never be ready in that way. If you wait for perfect conditions, you will wait forever. The decision that can save your life is not about being ready. It's about being willing. It's about trusting that the one who calls you to make that decision will also give you the strength to live it out. There's an old saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And isn't that true? So many people intend to change. They intend to turn things around. They intend to take that step. But intentions alone will never save you. Only action will. Only the decision made in the moment of conviction will lead you to life. And every time you push it off, every time you delay, your heart grows just a little more comfortable with where it is until you no longer even feel the urgency. This is why the call of God is always urgent. That's why the invitation is always, today, if you hear His voice, do not harden your heart, because the only time you are guaranteed is right now. Not yesterday, it's gone. Not tomorrow, it's uncertain. The only time you hold in your hands is this very moment. And what you do with this moment matters more than you know. So don't wait. Don't delay. Don't let the lie of tomorrow steal the decision that can save your life today. Life is full of voices, and every single day they compete for your attention. The world is loud with its opinions, its promises, and its distractions. Some voices call you toward pleasure, some toward success, some toward compromise, and some toward comfort. And in the middle of it all, there is the still, small voice of truth that leads to life. The challenge we face is not whether there are paths to choose from, but which path we will follow when so many voices are pulling us in so many directions. It's easy to be swept along by the loudest voice. Culture tells us what is popular, what is acceptable, what is trending, and if we aren't careful, we can mistake popularity for truth. But popularity does not make something right. Just because the majority is heading one way doesn't mean it is the way that leads to life. Jesus said that the broad road is crowded and easy, but it ends in destruction. The narrow road, though harder to find and harder to walk, leads to life. And that's the tension we all face, the pull of the crowd versus the pull of the truth. There will always be a temptation to choose the easy way. The easy way doesn't require courage. It doesn't require sacrifice. It doesn't set you apart from others. But the easy way rarely leads to anything of value. And when it comes to the decision that can save your life, the easy way is almost always the wrong way. Choosing the right path requires discernment and strength. It requires you to tune out the noise of the world so you can hear the voice that matters most. Think about how much noise surrounds us today. We are flooded with opinions on social media, news outlets, friends, and coworkers, all telling us what we should believe, how we should live, what will make us happy. And yet, the more voices we listen to, the more confused we often become. It's like trying to walk through a crowded marketplace with everyone shouting at you from every direction. If you don't know where you're going, you'll be pulled in circles until you're exhausted and lost. But when you fix your eyes on the one who knows the way, suddenly the noise fades into the background and clarity takes its place. The path to life is not always glamorous, and it's not always popular. Sometimes it means walking away from things everyone else is chasing. Sometimes it means saying no to what feels good now so you can say yes to what is better later. Sometimes it means standing alone while others misunderstand you. But the reward of choosing the right path is peace, security, and a future anchored in truth. That is worth far more than the fleeting approval of the crowd. There are countless stories of people who have followed the wrong voice and ended up broken and empty. They thought they were chasing freedom, only to find themselves in chains. They thought they were chasing happiness, only to discover sorrow. That is the danger of listening to the wrong voices. Their promises never deliver what they claim. But those who choose the voice of truth, those who take the narrow road, may face challenges along the way, but they find life in abundance. They find strength in the struggle and hope in the journey. The decision that can save your life is not just about making a choice. It's about making the right choice, even when it's hard. It's about rejecting the noise of the world so you can hear the whisper of truth. It's about courage, conviction, and clarity. And in the end, it's about realizing that the right path may not be the easiest one, but it is always the one that leads to life. One of the hardest things for us to do as human beings is to let go of control. We like to believe we can handle life on our own. We tell ourselves that if we just work harder, plan better, or push further, then everything will fall into place. But if we're honest, we all know that life has a way of reminding us that we are not in control. Circumstances shift without warning, plans crumble in an instant, and the things we thought we could manage slip right through our fingers. And in those moments, when our strength fails and our certainty disappears, we are faced with the truth. The decision that can save your life is not about holding on tighter, but about surrendering control to the one who knows best. Surrender is not weakness, though the world tells us it is. Surrender is wisdom. It is the recognition that there is a God who sees the whole picture while we see only a fragment. We live with limited knowledge, limited vision, and limited strength. But He is unlimited in power, in wisdom, and love. When we insist on doing life our way, leaning only on our own understanding, we are choosing to walk blindfolded down a path full of dangers we cannot see. But when we surrender, when we place our lives into the hands of the one who knows the end from the beginning, we find security, direction, and peace that we could never create on our own. Some people resist surrender because they fear losing their freedom. They think giving up control means missing out on the life they want. But the truth is, the more tightly you try to control everything, the less free you actually become. Anxiety grows, stress builds, and fear creeps in because you realize you cannot possibly manage it all. True freedom is not found in control. True freedom is found in trust. When you surrender to God, you are not giving up your life. You are gaining the life you were created for. You are trading chaos for order, fear for peace, and uncertainty for assurance. Think of it like a child holding the hand of a parent while crossing a busy street. That child may think he's strong enough to cross on his own, but the parent sees the cars, the lights, the danger the child cannot see. The safest place for that child is not in his own independence, but in the security of his parent's hand. In the same way, the safest place for you is not in clinging to your own plans, but in placing your life in the hands of the one who sees it all. Over and over again, Scripture reminds us not to lean on our own understanding, but to trust in the Lord with all our hearts. That's because our understanding is limited and flawed, but His wisdom is perfect. And when we surrender, we discover that He can do more with our lives than we ever could. The dreams we hold on to so tightly may seem good, but what He has for us is greater. The plans we fear letting go of may seem secure, but His plans are eternal. Surrender is not about losing, it's about gaining something far better. The decision that can save your life will always involve surrender. Surrender of your pride, surrender of your self-reliance, surrender of the illusion that you can make it on your own. And though surrender may feel like the hardest choice you'll ever make, it is also the most freeing, because when you finally release control, you discover that your life is no longer resting on your fragile shoulders, but is being carried by the one who cannot fail. Every decision you make in life creates a ripple effect. It doesn't just affect you. It affects the people around you, the ones you love, and even those you may never meet. We sometimes like to believe that our choices are isolated, that what we decide in the quiet of our own lives impacts no one but ourselves. But that is never the case. Decisions reach further than we can see, shaping families, influencing communities, and even touching generations to come. The decision that can save your life is not just about your personal journey, it is about the legacy you will leave behind. Think about a stone dropped into a still pond. The moment it hits the surface, the ripples begin to spread outward, touching every corner of the water. In the same way, your choices, whether for good or for harm, spread outward into the lives of others. A parent's decision to walk in truth influences children. A leader's decision to stand with integrity influences those who follow. Even the private choices we think no one sees have a way of surfacing and affecting the lives of others in ways we could never predict. When you choose life, When you choose surrender, when you choose to follow the path of truth, you are not just saving yourself, you are opening a door for others to walk through. Your courage gives courage to someone else. Your faith strengthens the faith of those watching. Your example becomes a testimony that others can look to when they face their own crossroads. And this influence, this ripple effect, often extends far beyond anything you will ever witness in your lifetime. But the same is true in the opposite direction. When we ignore the decision that leads to life, when we walk down paths of destruction, when we live only for ourselves, those choices too ripple outward. They cause pain, they break trust, they sow seeds of brokenness that others must deal with. And too often, the ones who suffer most are the ones who had no part in making the decision in the first place. That is the sobering reality of the weight of our choices. They carry consequences not only for us, but for others. The decision that can save your life is never just personal, it is generational. Families are changed because one person chose to surrender. Legacies are rewritten because one person decided to stop running and turn toward life. Entire communities are impacted because one person dared to walk the narrow road instead of following the crowd. And when you step into that decision, you are not only securing your own soul, you are planting seeds of hope for everyone around you. History is full of stories where the choices of one individual altered the future of countless others. Sometimes those choices were destructive, but often they were redemptive. A single act of obedience, a single moment of courage, a single decision to follow truth instead of deception. These are the decisions that ripple through time and eternity. You may never fully see on this side of life how far your influence has spread, but I can promise you it reaches further than you think. That is why the decision you face today is so critical. It is not only about your salvation, your peace, or your future. It is about the generations who will come after you, the people whose lives will be touched by the choice you make in this moment. And one day, when you look back, you will see that this decision was bigger than just you. It was the turning point not only for your life, but for many lives that followed. So when you weigh the choice before you, remember this: your decision will ripple beyond yourself. And the decision that can save your life may very well be the decision that saves countless others too. There is an urgency to the decision that can save your life, because none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. We like to live as though time is endless, as if we can always push off what really matters until a later day. But the truth is, every breath we take is a gift, and none of us know how many of those breaths we have left. Life is fragile, unpredictable, and often shorter than we expect. That's why the most dangerous word you can use when it comes to this decision is someday. Someday I'll change. Someday I'll surrender. Someday I'll choose life. But someday is not on the calendar. Only today is. We deceive ourselves when we think we can wait. We tell ourselves that tomorrow will always be there, that we'll have more time, more opportunities, more chances. But delay is a trap. Tomorrow never belongs to us. It is always just out of reach. What we hold in our hands is today, right now, this very moment. And if the decision that can save your life is before you, then the time to make it is not later, it is now. Throughout Scripture, the call is always urgent. It never says, tomorrow is the day of salvation. It says, today is the day. Why? Well, because God knows our tendency to push off what we know we should do. He knows that the longer we delay, the harder our hearts become. What feels urgent today may feel less so tomorrow, and eventually it may not feel urgent at all. The window of conviction begins to close. and what once stirred our hearts begins to feel ordinary. That's the danger of waiting. You don't just risk running out of time, you risk losing the very desire to choose. Life itself teaches us this lesson. Opportunities come and go, doors open and close. The chance to speak a word, to take a step, to change direction often passes more quickly than we think. How many times have you heard someone say, "If only I had acted sooner, things would be different"? Regret always grows in the soil of delay, and when it comes to the decision that secures your soul, regret is too high a price to pay. The urgency of today is also a reminder that the decision you make now doesn't just change your eternity, it changes your present. Choosing life, choosing truth, choosing surrender brings peace into your heart now. It brings freedom from guilt now. It brings purpose and direction now. This is not just about securing your future. It is about experiencing the fullness of life today. Waiting only robs you of the joy you could already be living in. And the truth is, you don't need more time to make this decision. You don't need to have every question answered, every problem solved, or every part of your life cleaned up. All you need is a willing heart in this moment, because the decision that can save your life is not about what you bring to the table. It's about what God offers you freely, and that gift is offered now. So don't be fooled by the illusion of tomorrow. Don't let the lie of delay steal the opportunity that is right in front of you. This is your moment. This is your time. This is the decision that can save your life, and it must be made today.